The sit-in movement. The civil rights movement was a social movement in the United States during which activists attempted to end racial segregation and discrimination against African Americans. This movement employed several different types of protests. As you read, identify the tactics that civil rights activists used to oppose racial segregation. By 1960, the civil rights movement had gained strong momentum. The nonviolent measures employed by Martin Luther King Jr. helped African American activists win supporters across the country and throughout the world. On February 1st, 1960, the peaceful activists introduced a new tactic into their set of strategies. 4 African American college students walked up to a whites-only lunch counter at the local Woolworths store in Greensboro, North Carolina, and asked for coffee. When service was refused, the students sat patiently. Despite threats and intimidation, the students sat quietly and waited to be served. The civil rights sit-in was born. No one participated in a sit-in of this sort without seriousness of purpose. The instructions were simple: sit quietly and wait to be served. Often the participants would be jeered and threatened by local customers. Sometimes they would be pelted with food or ketchup. Protesters did not respond when provoked by angry onlookers. In the event of a physical attack, the student would curl up into a ball on the floor and take the punishment. Any violent reprisal would undermine the spirit of the sit-in. When the local police came to arrest the demonstrators, another line of students would take the vacated seats. Sit-in organizers believed that if the violence were only on the part of the white community, the world would see the righteousness of their cause. Before the end of the school year, over 1,500 black demonstrators were arrested, but their sacrifice brought results. Slowly but surely, restaurants throughout the South began to abandon their policies of segregation. In April 1960, Martin Luther King sponsored a conference to discuss strategy. In April 1960, Martin Luther King Jr. sponsored a conference to discuss strategy. Students from the North and South came together and formed the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Early leaders included Stokely Carmichael and Fannie Lou Hamer. The Congress on Racial Equality was a northern group of students led by James Farmer, which also endorsed direct action. These groups became the grassroots organizers of future sit-ins at lunch counters, wade-ins at segregated swimming pools, and pray-ins at white-only churches. Bolstered by the success of direct action, core activists planned the first Freedom Ride in 1961 to challenge laws mandating segregated interstate transportation. Busloads of integrated black and white students rode through the South. The first Freedom Riders left Washington, D.C. in May 1961 en route to New Orleans. Several participants were arrested in bus stations, and when the buses reached Anniston, Alabama, an angry mob slashed the tires on one of the buses and set it aflame. The riders on the other bus were violently attacked, and the Freedom Riders had to complete their journey by plane. New Attorney General Robert Kennedy ordered federal marshals to protect future Freedom Rides. Bowing to political and public pressure, the Interstate Commerce Commission soon banned segregation on interstate travel. Progress was slow indeed, but the wall between the races was gradually being eroded.